nice to be inside. I know that. I did my undergraduate in MIAC school as well. It wasn't Mac, but and I would much rather be skipping class and playing outside than watching me. So I get it. Okay. So what we're going to do today is I got maybe about 30 or 40 slides. Hopefully for you guys, really somewhat informative about sports nutrition. All right. I work over at the university. I direct a graduate school program over there. But the other thing I do is I'm the dietitian for all the pro sports teams here in Minnesota. So I deal with all the professional athletes as well as do some stuff for colleges and high schools. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. I want to make sure that you get good information. And what I want to tell you first and foremost is that one of the things that Paula asked me to do is to kind of help build, and what's the name of the strength guy? Scott or Steve or something? Steve. He asked if I'd be able to help put information on the MAC athlete website regarding nutrition and like ask questions and go to and menus and that kind of stuff. So look for that in the near future here because we just decided that yesterday. So like I said, let's do this like in 45 minutes or 50 minutes to get you guys out of here. Does that work? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Trust me, I want to go too. So I'm teasing, but let's make it worth your while too. So what I want to do, you guys, today is talk a little bit about how nutrition plays into the training, the rest and recovery, and the treatment, the four components, if you will, of being an athlete. If you guys don't rest and recover after training really, really hard, you're not going to be able to train really hard the next day, right? And if Paula and the rest of the athletic training crew here is not giving you good treatment, and you're not getting good strength and conditioning and so forth, you're not going to be able to perform well either. The missing component oftentimes that people don't think about is nutrition and how it plays into athletics. The other piece up there is a supplementation piece, and that might be using Gatorade, might be using Myoplex, it might be using any of the thing that the NCAA says that you can use. And where does supplementation fit into this? And we'll talk briefly about that as well. So the question becomes, what influences athletic ability? All right, when I was in college, I'm 43 years old, all right, and I went to St. Ben's and I graduated like 22 years ago, so it's a long time ago. But what influences athletic ability? And I ran cross country and I swam and all that stuff, but I always want to be this great runner and great everything else. It ain't going to happen because so much of this is how you pick your parents. Your genetic endowment is really, really important to how you're able to perform. But the other piece that comes into this is training hard, and that's why you guys have 2-a-day training sessions in the early fall or when you guys come on campus for the fall sports. That's why you're training really, really hard now for the spring and probably through the summer when you go home and have your jobs and so forth, and or stay on campus and do some research, but you're still training for your athletics. The other piece I said is good nutrition. There is no secret ingredient. No magic pill, no magic bullet that's going to make you jump faster, catch a ball better, shoot a hockey puck any harder. It just doesn't happen that way. But performance nutrition means a few things. First of all, you've got to have enough fuel to boost activity on a daily basis. You want to train really hard so that you're able to turn around and perform really hard. You want to fuel so that it decreases your risk of injuries. If you're malnourished, if you're dehydrated, your risk of injury goes up. All right, if you're on the basketball court, or you're on the softball field, or you're playing soccer, or whatever it might be, or football. I'm guessing some of you guys are football people. Am I right? Great. If you're out there, your ankle twists. It might be because you're dehydrated a little bit. If you're not maintaining hydration, study after study will show that athletes end up getting hurt more often. All right. It helps with your recovery. If you're eating well and you're hydrating well, you'll be able to recover more quickly so that you can play hard the next day. Because what you do today manages how you act and how you play tomorrow. You've got to, though, have foods that taste good. I'm not going to sit up here and say you have to have whole grain this and tofu that and everything else, because I don't believe in that. Should I drink beer and I eat Oreos myself, all right? I do that, okay? But I also want to make sure that you guys get the stuff that you need, and you can't drink beer unless you're 21, mind you, but you know, that you need for being able to perform for McAllister the way that you want to. They've got to be foods you enjoy. Ideally something that you can get up in the cafeteria, or if you're living off campus or even on campus where you can prepare your own foods, you can do that relatively easily. And foods that you feel good eating. One of the coaches yesterday, because I did this talk for the coaches, they said, well, what should I feed my players beforehand? And I gave them some ideas, but the idea behind it is, what do you guys eat? What settles in your stomach well? Nobody knows you better than yourself, and I can say you've got to have this and you've got to have that. But if it doesn't taste good, and you don't necessarily want to play on that food, it's not going to do you any good. So if you think about nutrition, all right, if you suffer, if you will, from poor nutrition as an athlete, you can end up with weight loss, which oftentimes is the same as strength loss, because you're going to end up losing lean body mass, typically not fat mass, but typically muscle mass when you go on these somewhat restricted diets and or not eating particularly well. Lethargy, which is just kind of a feeling of malaise or just not feeling really great. Fatigue, and you can kind of read the rest of them there. Soreness, joint pain, micronutrient deficit or deficiencies, just not having enough of one particular vitamin or mineral that works as cofactors to unlock the energy that you need to have. All right? Increased incidence of respiratory infections. There was a study done in the NHL just in the last couple of years that if one player ended up getting a respiratory infection, the same thing would sweep through the locker room. And they were looking at this, and they could compare and contrast and say, if this happened, these people also ended up getting sick. The same thing will happen in the Vikings locker room, too, because they sit there, they're in such close quarters. Guy drinks out of a water bottle, passes it on to the next one. You just got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you're not getting the rest of your teammates sick either. And if you ever had that feeling of just like, God, I just don't feel great today, nothing's working, I'm not playing well, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, sometimes those can be symptoms of something called overtraining syndrome, which is really one or two or a combination of a number of the items listed above. So if we think about calorie levels, think about Olympic gymnasts, okay, or even think about maybe some of the volleyball players or some of the smaller golf individuals that we might have at McAllister, about 1,900 to 2,000 calories. That's all they need per day, okay? Tour de France cyclists eat over 7,000 calories a day. You guys probably saw Michael Phelps last year in the Olympics, and there was this whole thing about how many calories this guy was eating, 10,000 a day. I mean, he was eating like 2 pizzas and 5 Big Macs at breakfast. It was just amazing the amount of calories this guy was consuming. College football players in weight gain mode, which are really looking for a lot of lean body mass, about 7,500 calories a day, depending upon their position that they're playing and or their body size. So the calorie needs of all the athletes in this area are going to vary. Some of you guys might need 2,200 and some of you might need 6,200. It just kind of varies. I love it when I work with older people and they're like, yeah, I'm really athletic. I get out there and I go fishing every Saturday and Sunday. Well, you sure don't need very many calories to sit on your duff and haul some fish in. Maybe 15 calories per pound of body weight versus like McAllister volleyball athletes, maybe even 30 calories per pound of body weight. So it really varies in America. The problem is that so many people are getting big, right? Because A, they're not exercising, and B, they're just not watching what they're eating. And when they go out to eat and they get this big portion of food at Champs or at a store or wherever it might be, they pay $9.95 for it. By God, they're going to eat the whole thing because they paid for that, right? And that's about 3,000 calories on there. I've got Viking football players who will watch so closely Monday through Friday what they eat. This is in the off season. Then on Friday night they'll go to Champs or they'll go downtown and go to the club or something. They can easily blow it and have 4,000 or 5,000 calories in one night.